Hi everyone, welcome to my channel and welcome back to the series of how to use programming in automation. So, as part of this series, today I'm going to show you how to use user defined functions in automation. Okay. So, we can say function is a reusable block of code designed to perform a specific task. Okay, I will repeat once again. Function is a reusable block of code designed to perform a specific task. Okay, so now I will tell you why we use user defined functions in automation. Okay, so let's say we have 100 test cases, and in almost all the test cases we need to log in first before we test anything else. Okay, so to log in we need to write same four steps, like open the URL, enter the username, enter the password, and click on login button. Okay, so if you write these four steps in every single test file, what happens? The same code gets repeated again and again, correct? And this is called duplicate code. Okay, so instead of writing these four lines everywhere, we will put them in one function and we call it login. And whenever we want to log in, we just call this function. Okay, so login is just one example. It's just a one example of repeated code. So when we work on real time application, we will find so many actions that we perform again and again. Okay, and for all those things we can write a function. Okay, and one thing is, anytime you feel like you are writing the same code again in different places. Okay, I will repeat again. Anytime you feel like you're writing the same code in different places, it's better to make it as a function. Okay, so now I'll show you how to create a function. Okay, so there are many ways we can create a functions. Okay, so there are many ways we can create a function, but in automation, the three most useful ones are, I will show you. The first one is function that don't take parameter. Function that don't take any inputs or parameters. Okay, this is the first type of function. And the second one is function that take input. Function that take inputs. Okay, and third one is function that returns some value. Okay, function that returns some value. Okay, so these are all the three main types of functions we create and use in automation. Okay, let's see one by one. Okay, the first one is function that don't take any inputs. Okay, so it means it will not take any parameters at the runtime. Okay, so we just call this method, and this method or function will perform some task. Okay, like launch the URL. So when you know that URL is fixed, you can put that URL in a method and say launch app. Yeah, we can say the method name launch app, and it will just launch the application. And you can say click some button. Okay, here we are not entering or we are not giving any input. We are just performing some action, that is click. Okay, and next is, so in automation we do not write everything inside the spec file or test file. Okay, so usually we create a folder called helper or utils, and inside that we create a file, and inside the file we create common functions. Okay, so I'll create a folder, and this folder should be, it should be not inside the test folder, and it should be in the main project directory. Okay, so we'll say new folder, and the folder name I will call helper. Okay, so this is the folder name, and inside the folder I will create a class. Okay, and this is a class. Okay, this file is a class. I will say common functions. Okay, common functions dot ts TypeScript. Okay, so inside this I will create user defined functions. Okay, so the class is common functions. Class, I will say common I will give the same name as the file name, common functions. Okay, and we need to export. Remember, we need to export this class so we can import the functions inside the spec file. Okay, okay, and now we need to create a constructor for this class. I will tell you why we need to call constructor, and we initialize page here and will not write anything inside the constructor. So now let us import. It is saying we are not imported this page. Let us import this page. Import page from Playwright test. Okay. Okay. So now I will launch the application source demo application. Okay. So I will just launch this application. I will not do anything. Okay. Okay. So how to create a method or function? We have to use async keyword. Remember, in order to create a function in TypeScript or JavaScript, we have to use async keyword and method name or function name. What is the function? I will say launch app. Okay, so function name is launch app and we have to use async keyword. Okay, okay, so now what we need to do, we need to launch the application. So how to launch the application? We know that await. So this dot, we have to use this dot page dot go to. So what is the url is source demo. Okay, so it is just a, we have created a function that do not take any parameter, first type of function. Okay, okay, so now let us go to our spec file. So here I've already created a spec file called functions. Okay, so here what we need to do, we need to call that function here. So where is that function? That function is inside this common functions. Okay, so first we need to import common functions. So here it is, common function. We can say it is inside this helper folder. So just take that. It will import the folder name and all. Okay. So now what we need to do, we need to create an object for the class. Okay. This is the class. So how to create object? Const, I will say obj, its object name is equal to new class name. Okay, and we have to pass page here. Okay, and you know page is a page object to interact with the page. Okay, so we need to open the page and we need to interact with it. Okay, for that we are passing page here. Okay, and this is from this constructor. Okay, okay, so now how to call this method, this launch app, with the help of this object. So object await, we have to use await object dot, so launch app. Okay, so object name dot method name, which one, which method you want to call. Okay, this is how we need to call the method, object name dot method name inside this class. Okay, okay, so I'll give some wait page dot wait for timeout. I'll give some 3-second time. So now let us execute this. So functions is a spec name. Okay, and if you think you're learning something from this video, please do like and subscribe to my channel. So it's launching. The method is just to launch the application. Okay, okay, one test is passed. Okay, so now I'll click quickly tell you why we are using constructor here and what is constructor. Okay, so constructor is a special method inside the class. Okay, just remember, constructor is a special method inside a class and its job is to initialize things. Okay, its job is to initialize things when we create an object for the class. Okay. Okay, so here what it is initializing. Okay, so it is initializing. So we know that inside a class we'll write many methods, correct? And inside and in all the methods we need to interact with the page, correct? So instead of passing this page object inside all the classes, we just initializing or calling it inside the constructor. Okay, so we pass this over the constructor. Then all the methods inside the class can use the same page. So we don't have to initialize page inside each method. Okay. So if you initialize inside the constructor, it will be called. Okay. So when we create an object, it will be called. Okay. Okay. So this is the first type of function. So the second type of function is function that take inputs. Okay, so it means at the runtime, if you want to pass some value, like if you want to log in, so what we need to log in, we need username and password, correct? So that username and password we can enter at the runtime in the sense in the spec file. Okay. Okay, so now let us create a method called login, and we will enter the username and password in the spec file, not in this common functions. Okay. Okay, so let us create a function async, and the method is login. Okay, so as I said, we need two things, username and password, correct? So we'll type username colon, username is of what type? Of string. Okay, and password, and password is of type string. Okay, and if you're passing anything like age or something, you can say number. If you're passing any number, you can say type is number. Okay. Okay, so now we need to inspect this username and password field. Okay, it has id. Await this dot page dot fill. So what is the locator? Id, username, and what we need to fill? We need to fill username. Okay, so the syntax of fill is locator and the value. Locator is ash username, that is id, and the value is username that we will enter in the spec file. Okay, next password. Await this dot page dot fill. We will enter the password, and the password is, the value of the password is this. Okay, then to click on the login button, await this dot page dot click. We will inspect now. Okay. 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 Password and for login id login. Okay. Okay, so now let us call this method in our spec file. So we've already created an object. So now await object dot login, and we need to pass two parameters, correct? So that is username and password. So what is the username? Here they have given the username standard user. Username and password is secret sauce. here I'll remove this weight and I'll put here. Okay, so here I'm calling this method with the help of this object, and this method takes two inputs or two parameters. One is username and password, and I'm passing it here. Okay, I saved and let us execute. So next I'll show you how to pass the product name in the search method. For that I'll use Amazon application. So I enter the username, did not enter the password. Okay, so here I did not put ash. It is ID. I have to put ash. Okay, save. I'll do once again. Okay, it entered username and password. Okay. Okay. So now I will show you the example of Amazon. So here let us inspect this and we'll enter the product name and press on this, click on this search button. Okay. So in the common function, we'll write another method, launch Amazon. We can call it launch Amazon. Okay. So we'll copy the same thing and we'll just change the URL. Okay. Now I'll inspect this search bar. So it has ID. We'll take the ID. Await this dot page dot fill. Okay, so let's not do here. We'll create another method. Okay. Okay, so we'll create another method and we'll call search product. Okay, async search product. Okay, and here this method will take one input, that is product name. Okay, so we'll say prod name and it is of type string. Okay. Okay, so await this dot page dot fill. So here I will enter the locator and the value is prod name. Okay, so this one is ID. I will take ID ash ID. Okay, so then what we need to do, we need to inspect that search button, this one. Okay, it has ID. We'll take await this dot page dot click and click on this ID. Okay. Okay, I'll give some weight. Okay, I'll give the spec file. Okay. Okay, so now let us call it. So I don't launch source demo. I will just comment it. So now I want to launch Amazon method. I want to call launch Amazon method. So await object dot launch Amazon. Okay. And then what I want to call, I want to call search method. So await obj dot search product. Okay, I want to search pen. Okay. Okay, save. Let us execute. Okay, it search for the product. Okay. Okay, so if you want to add any validation, we can add, like, we can validate that. So here this search summary includes this pen word here. Okay, let us inspect this. Okay, h2 tag, it has many classes. Let us check. I'll remove the space and I'll add dot because it's class. Okay, one matching element. Let us take. And important thing is, if you want to add any validation, you have to use in the spec file, not inside the utility. Okay, or inside the common functions. Okay, all the validation we should do inside the spec file. Okay. Okay. So const will keep this in some variable and I will call result summary. Okay, result summary page dot locator, and this is the locator. Okay. Okay, so how to do the validation? Expect expect result summary, expect result summary to contain text, to contain text. What text it should contain? It should contain, we'll say, results for pen. Okay. Okay, let us execute this. Okay, it search for the pen. One test passed. Okay. Okay, so now if you want to search for any other product, you can just change the name here. Okay, or we can keep this in some variable. We'll say const prod name is equal to, if you want to search laptop, just say laptop, and instead of passing this word, you just pass this, sorry, prod name here. Okay, and here instead of pen, we will say prod name. Okay, so dollar, and the variable name is prod name, and instead of single quote we have to use backtick. Save. Let us execute. So here I will put this prod name in the double quote, because in the result also the laptop or pen are inside this double quote. Okay, so now let us execute. And if you think so far you are learning something from this video, please do like and subscribe to my channel. Okay, it called the first method launch Amazon. Now it called the second method search product. Okay, and it is done the validation. Okay. Okay, so now I'll show you the third type, that is function that returns some value. Okay, so a function that returns some value means the function that give back some data after performing its work. Okay, I will repeat once again. The function will give back or return some data to us, okay, after performing some value, and we can store that value in a variable and use it later. Okay. Okay, so how to create that function? So we will use Amazon only, and we will just after logging in, or sorry, after launching, we will get the title. Okay, and we will print the title in the spec file. Okay, so what I'm doing, I will repeat once again. So I will write a function to get the title, okay, to get the page title, and I will not do anything here. I will return that page title, and here this function will hold that page title. Okay. Okay, so I will show you how. Let us create a function that returns value async. I will say get page title. Okay, get page title, and I will say promise string. Okay. 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 Sorry, I'll close here. Okay. Okay. So here, so we know that the title is string, correct? So I'm passing string. Okay. So this error will go once I use a return keyword here. Okay. So what I want to return, I want to return the page title. So how to get the page title? Await this dot page dot title. Okay. So this title method will give the title. Okay, so here I return the title, and I will hold this title in the spec file. Okay, so after launching, so I will keep that. So what I'll keep, I will keep this function in some variable. It means the value that function will return, I will keep in some variable. So const, I will call it title. Okay, so const title is equal to await, will we will call that function with the help of object dot get page title, object dot get page title. Okay. Okay, so here we have this title. Okay, so let us print console.log, and we will say the page title is title. Okay, so I will repeat once again. So this common function, here in this common function, I am just returning the uh, title, and here in the spec file I'm keeping this method value in this variable called title, and here I'm printing it. Okay. Okay, and there will be many use cases or scenarios. There we just return some value, and in the spec file we'll perform any action, like to return the count, or for many use cases. Okay. Okay, let us execute this. It has to print the title. So here we are using three methods. One is launch Amazon, then get title, and search product. Okay. Okay. So this is how we create a function and call the function in the spec file. Okay. And remember, any validation, which if we want to perform any validation, do this inside the spec file, not inside the functions. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much for watching.